gonna try to do this. Here they all are. Hi, I'm Kaylee, and these are all the books that I'm gonna try to read in August. Okay, this is a little bit ridiculous. Ugh, all right. That's not even all of them, okay? That was just the ones that I was able to grab into a big stack. If I tried to actually stack them up, the stack wouldn't even fit in the camera. I may have bitten off a little bit more than I can chew in August, but we're just gonna plow ahead and see what happens. Before we get into all these books and the statistics and how many pages it is, please be sure to subscribe and give this video a like if you also have a really large TBR, and follow me over on Goodreads and Storygraph and all the places. So my TBR for August includes 22 books. Why do I do this to myself? It's getting to be a little bit ridiculous these days, you guys. So out of the 22 books, 2 of those are nonfiction. I have 1 classic I want to read, 5 middle grade, 3 children's books, 3 YA, 6 manga, and 2 of those are actually wrapped books. So I don't know what they are yet until I actually unwrap them and see how many pages it is and see what genre it is and everything. Because I don't know what the wrapped books will be, I have kind of guesstimated that it might be around 200 pages or 250 pages. So an estimate of how many pages I will need to read in August in order to complete this TBR is 6,000 pages. That is my goal for August. In order to complete that goal, I will have to read approximately 200 pages every day. So I've created a little chart for myself. On the side, I've just written in all the titles and how many pages for each title. And then I have the date marked so that I can check off each day and write in how many pages I read each day in August. Keeping a chart worked really well for me in July, so I wanted to keep that energy going in August. Let's actually get into the books themselves. Last month I read Reawakened, so now I want to continue with the second book in the trilogy, Recreated by Colleen Houck. I really enjoyed the first book, all about this girl who discovers a reawakened Egyptian prince. And of course they fall in love, and now I want to jump into their further adventures. I really loved learning about the ancient Egyptian gods and legends and everything, so I'm expecting there will be more of the same in the second book. Another series that I'm continuing is the Young Wizard series by Diane Duane, and this is the 9th book in the series, A Wizard of Mars. Every single book in the series has been 5 stars, so I have high hopes for this one as well. After this 9th book, there's only 1 more book, Games Wizards Play. There's only 10 books in this series. So now that I'm starting to get close to the finish line, it's kind of like, but I don't want it to finish. I don't want to read the last books because then the adventures will be over. So mixed feelings going into this penultimate book of the series, especially for a series that I have loved so much and have spent years gradually reading through. I actually read Dragonspell by Danita K. Paul years and years and years ago, and I finally decided it's time to continue with the rest of the series. But it's been so long since I read this first book that I decided to reread the first book and then continue on with, I think there were 5 or 6 books in the series. So this is about a girl who sets out on a quest to retrieve a stolen dragon's egg. And along the way, she meets magical creatures and makes friends and has all sorts of lovely magical adventures. I really loved reading it the first time around, so I'm very excited to read it again and then just keep that momentum going through the rest of the year. I'm planning to read the rest of the series by the end of the year. I'm also continuing with the Magnus Chase series with the second book, The Hammer of Thor. So I really loved the first book, The Sword of Summer. I read that just a few weeks ago, so I'm excited to just immediately dive in with the next book. However, I've heard that you should actually read Magnus Chase and Trials of Apollo in publication order because these 2 series were kind of coming out at the same time. And so I'm also going to be reading Trials of Apollo, The Hidden Oracle, which is book 1 in Trials of Apollo. So in this one, Apollo has been cursed or punished to live as a human. So you know that's going to be absolutely hilarious. One of my wrapped books for the month of August is The Long Secret by Louise Fitzhugh. This is the further adventures of Harriet the Spy. So I'm not sure if I'm going to like this one. I did not really care for Harriet the Spy. I felt like she was very selfish and just mean. If you know the plot of Harriet the Spy, it's this little girl and she keeps a journal and she writes down all these things that she observes about people. But all of her comments are just really mean. I mean, she's just a little jerk. So this one says, Harriet the Spy refuses to become ruffled when some unidentified person starts leaving uncanny and disturbing notes. So I don't know. We'll see. It's on my shelves. I just want to read it and then probably get rid of it and just be like, okay, we're done. I'm finished with Harriet the Spy. I'm giving her a second chance, but I do not have high hopes. Another one of my wrapped books is Pennyroyal Academy by M.A. Larson. A girl from the forest with no name and no idea why she is there arrives in a bustling kingdom, only to find herself at the center of a war. She enlists at Pennyroyal Academy, where princesses and knights are trained to battle the two great menaces, witches and dragons. And it has a really cool map. So, we shall see. It sounds really interesting. It sounds like just the sort of fairy tale fun that I always love. I'm also going to be finishing up Dorothy Sayers' Mind the Maker. So I actually started this at the end of June, and I have just been reading through it a tiny bit at a time as an extension of the June Journeys with Inklings readathon, because Dorothy Sayers is typically considered to be an honorary Inkling. But I've been reading through it really slowly because it is absolutely mind-blowing, and I'll read just a few pages and then I have to stop and really think and really consider everything that I'm reading. So I've been enjoying it a lot, but I'm just taking my time to really savor every chapter. And I'm a few pages into The Bronze Bow by Elizabeth George Spear. So this is about a young man in the time of Christ, and he is a Jew, and he is very angry at the Romans because they crucified his father. And he joins this band of outlaws in the mountains that are trying to raise an army of rebels. But then he meets a rabbi, a teacher named Jesus, and his whole life changes. I've been enjoying it quite a lot. I sat down today and read quite a bit, actually, and so I'm actually about halfway through. And I can definitely see why it won a Newbery, because it is really beautifully written. I'm also going to be finishing up listening to the audiobook of Return of the King, which is narrated by Andy Serkis, and I've been enjoying it so much. I already listened to a little bit of it in July, and I'm up to the point where Pippin is in Minas Tirith with Gandalf, and they're just kind of waiting on the eve of battle, waiting for things to start happening. I absolutely love Andy Serkis's narration, and it has been just such a joy to listen to. I get so immersed into the story. That narration is just absolute perfection in every chapter. So I'll be finishing that up in August as a continuation of the June Journeys with Inklings readathon, which you can extend as long as you need to finish up your reading. The rest of the books in this video are books that I received for free from a publisher or author in exchange for a free and honest review. So if you saw my review copy book haul video, you will have already seen a few of these. Scholastic Press sent me Witchlings, which I had already read this first book back in 2022, and now there are 3 more books in the series that they've also sent me for review. So because it's been a few years, I've decided to reread the first book in the series, Witchlings. This is about a little girl named Seven who is a witch, and she's hoping that she'll be placed in the same witches' coven together with her best friend so they can continue to learn magic together. But instead, she gets stuck with these other 2 girls, and at first they don't like each other, but then they make friends. So this series is just like all about the power of friendship. I absolutely loved this first book. It was absolutely enchanting. And so I'm really eager to read it again. And then I plan to immediately dive into the second book, The Golden Frog Games. So I have not read the synopsis or anything because I don't want to spoil myself. I just want to go, I don't want to know anything about it. I just want to go straight in and start reading and not know the premise of the plot line or anything. The tagline says, "Broken magic, a deadly hex. No one can be trusted." And then after these, there are 2 more books in the series that I'll probably read in September and then October, and I'll kind of spread them out a little bit. InterVarsity Press sent me From Achilles to Christ, Why Christians Should Read the Pagan Classics by Louis Markos. So I read another book by Louis Markos, On the Shoulders of Hobbits, for the June Journeys with Inklings Readathon, and I just loved it so much that I asked the publisher to send me more of his books. So I'm really eager to dive into this one. I love Greek mythology and things like that. So I'm very interested to see, like, what is the correlation between these ancient myths and the truth of Christ. It'll be really interesting to dive into the importance of this classical literature and how those ancient myths actually still shape our thinking today. And then I have The Lost Library by Rebecca Stead. This one is about a mysterious little free library that just pops up in a town overnight. And when Evan gets some books from there, he realizes the books have to do with this old town secret that none of the adults will talk about. What really drew me to this is that it's told from 3 different perspectives. One of the perspectives is Evan, a little boy, and then it's also told from the perspective of a ghost librarian and a cat. One of the perspectives is the cat. So that just sounds absolutely adorable. I'm so excited to dive into this one. And then we have a book from Judith Eagle, The Secret Starling. This is about some kids who are exploring through the old manor and they find a single tattered ballet slipper and they have to investigate the mystery of the old ballet slipper. I've already read another book by Judith Eagle, The Pear Affair, and I loved it so much that I requested Walker Books to send me more books by Judith Eagle, and this is one of the ones that they sent over. So I already have high expectations for this one because I have enjoyed other books by this author. I'm expecting that this will just be mystery and adventure and all sorts of fun. And those are the books that I'm planning to read in August. Please leave me a comment and let me know what are some books that you have in your TBR for this month. And let me know, have you kind of overloaded your TBR or do you just have a light TBR or maybe no TBR at all for the month of August? Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.